This episode is sponsored by the Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Over the past 4 years, I have had the opportunity to help over 30 women identify, accept, and take action in the parts of their lives where they feel stuck. My heart's desire is to do that with every woman I come in contact with, but the truth is that's not realistic. So instead, I created a prayer journal that goes through that same journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal is designed for you to dig deep and answer questions that will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal consists of 6 sections of journal prompts and areas for reflections for when you want to dig a little deeper and just take your thoughts to another level. Whether it takes you 6 weeks or 6 months to complete, I promise you will not regret it. Head on over to my website at www.feliciawallace.com and select the books tab to make your purchase. If you are ready to find your fears and slay them, go to www.feliciawallace.com, select books, and get your copy today. You're listening to the Slang Self-Doubt Podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Welcome back to another episode of the Slang Self-Doubt Podcast. I am here with Nicole Fingers from Fingers and Ink. How are you, Nicole?
Very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. So everybody who's been listening to the show, y'all know that this segment or these interviews that we do, we talking to other women about their self-doubt journey. And so I'm always honored when other people reach out to me because it continues to just blow my mind how God is using this platform because this ain't what I wanted. So thank you for well, I didn't know that I wanted it. Let me stop saying that. It ain't what I wanted. I didn't know that I wanted and needed this. But thank you so much for reaching out. And so can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Yes, definitely. I'm Nicole Fingers. I'm the owner and lead creative stylist of Fingers and Ink, which is a fine invitation and stationery boutique located in Arlington, Virginia. We are brick and mortar.
Nice.
We'll actually be celebrating 20 years of being in business.
Let's go.
May. I'm so excited. I can't tell you the milestones and pitfalls and all the many things that I've learned on my journey, but I'm just so thankful to have this story.
Mm-hmm.
But native Washingtonian, went to college at the Ohio State University. Actually, I'm an engineer by trade.
Wow.
But stumbled upon the love of paper and design. And it has just truly been my passion to meet people during their most happiest and celebratory occasions. So I fell in love with it. It fell in love with me. And I guess that's the reason why I've been in business for 20 years.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Like you say engineer, how you go from what was the initial plan, right? Like what did you initially envision? Because we all know that there's lots of things we start out doing, whether it be because people say that's the right way to do stuff, or we think about, I was having this conversation with my son the other day, and we always ask us, where you gonna be when you grow up? And I used to be like, I had no idea, but I was like, as a girl growing up in the 80s and 90s, it seemed like you could only be a teacher or a nurse. So I just went with that, right? Like that was it. And that's what I would say, but it wasn't my desire. It wasn't anything that I wanted to do per se, right? But how did we get here?
Well, my dad is an engineer.
Okay.
So I work with my dad, and theoretically, that's a great career.
Mm-hmm.
The money was fabulous. And I actually worked in television production and behind the scenes, which would require my engineering degree, for some time. Again, money, great, but it just wasn't my passion. And I did both, work to pay for the business.
Yeah.
That little dance, that song and dance. And then I just had to, my tax preparer told me, he's like, when are you going to stop playing business and be a business?
Wow.
And that resonated with me so much to the point where I really had to put a strategic plan together and say, yeah, I need to do this, because I wasn't fulfilled. And it didn't make me as happy as I am now. Like, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, that's a different feeling, right? And so I'm just going to say what I hear you saying is that it wasn't that you didn't dislike your job. You enjoyed being an engineer, but it wasn't fulfilling you, right? Which I think sometimes is very difficult for some of us, because I felt the same way when God called me away from my job. I was like, I like it. I like the people here. I enjoy what I do. Like, it didn't feel like it wasn't, but this doesn't feel, like you said, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like I've never said like, oh gosh, I gotta go interview somebody, oh I gotta go coach somebody, oh I gotta go to this event. I'm like, oh God, like I can't wait to whoever's supposed to hear whatever I have to say, however I'm supposed to be connected to this person. And when I think about it, I'd be like, how many times I go to work and I'd be like, I know it's gonna be a rack of emails. I don't feel like having this meeting. Dang, I gotta let this person go today. What time am I gonna let them go? Is it gonna be the end of the day? Is it gonna be at lunch? Like, all the stress of the ins and outs of having a job that you love is different when you're operating in purpose and in passion, because you can't see yourself doing, you're just excited about it every single day. So I feel you.
You understand. And yes. It's hard for people who don't have that same passion about what they do to understand that it doesn't feel like work. Like, I get to meet, again, people at the highlight of their, whether it's them having a baby, whether they're getting married, they bought a new home, they've adopted a child. They're just so excited about life. Yeah. And I learned so much in culture from them. So I'm like, I feel so fulfilled. And my husband often says, like, are you coming home tonight? You know, it's 7:00. And you know, with the time change of it being light, longer, I look up, it's 8:00. And mind you, I've been here at my studio for at least since 8. So I'm like, I'm doing 12-hour days, but it doesn't feel like
it doesn't feel like it. Yeah. No, and that is so it's so important to like recognize that, because I think even for those who don't operate in their, not always operating in their passion or their purpose, they don't understand how the time gets away from you, right? You're not there because you're catching up. Now, sometimes we are, but but for the most part, you're there because you're still creating. Like, you're in creation mode. Like, when I used to be at work and I was there past the time, it was because I couldn't get nothing done and I had to meet these deadlines, and let me just hurry up and get it. But I was rushing to get out of there, versus when I'm here in my space, my husband's like, you gonna come upstairs? And I'll be like, one more thing, I just gotta, it's in my brain, I just gotta write it down. So I have learned, so I got all these Post-it notes over here that I just write stuff down, and I just, like, when I get to that creative space, I just be like, okay, I'm gonna do this later, this gonna come later. So no, I totally understand. So in this journey of all that, like, transitioning, or even doing them both at the same time, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs now out that are doing the 9-to-5 grind and the 5-to-9 grind. How has self-doubt showed up in your journey?
Did you hear that ad at the beginning of the show? If you're a business owner looking to expand your reach, you can promote your company or product with a host-read pre-roll or mid-roll ad by me on the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. If you want more information, email info@FeliciaWallace.com. That's info@FeliciaWallace.com. Now, back to the show.
Wow, that's an amazing question. And I've heard your interviews in your podcast, and it's different for everybody. Everybody has that self-doubt and how they actually maneuver through it.
Yep.
Or live with it. And I think we all, sometimes, even 20 years in, I still have self-doubt on some certain things, that I'm not doing things this kind of way. And I think it's something that I live with and work through to get to the next day, to get to the next year, to, like those. And I try to work myself in quarters.
Okay.
To make sure that I'm leveling up and elevating to not stay stuck in certain areas of my life. So that's most helpful for me. I work in baby steps. I work in chunks, and quarters work the best for me. I've realized that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So when you transitioned into like, so I would imagine, because in my mind, I'm just, thinking like when your tax preparer said that to you, what was like your initial like feeling of having to make that transition? Because that's a big step, right? Because
money,
like you said,
money was the first thing. Money was off rip. It was money. I said, I have to get my finances together to be able to feel sustained enough to do this just by itself.
Yeah.
So that was number one, money. And then I think the confidence of actually saying, this is what I do, not being shady to the 9-to-5 who do the hustle, but I always get the side eye from some people who say, well, that recession happened. How do you feel about that? Like, wouldn't you felt better if you had a 9-to-5? Yeah.
But
if I prepare properly, I know that the pandemic, I was very lean, but that recession that happened prepared me for this pandemic. So had I not had that experience, I really, honestly, I don't know. But that recession that I experienced.
Yeah. No, but I think that that's important too, because we don't necessarily understand how all parts of our journey are connected to certain situations, right? And we, in all honesty, like you said, I would think that for everybody, the first thing is money. When you leave in a full-time benefits paying job, you like, now what are we going to do, right? And I've shared my story, and that when my husband finally was on board with me leaving, like we tried it out, like what would it look like to live on one income, right? What would it look like for us to just see what happens? Now, what we weren't expecting, right? You weren't expecting a pandemic, but like you said, because we had practiced it, and we knew that nothing else was coming when everything kind of slowed, because Steven's stuff slowed down for him as well, and things changing, and then the prices of everything goes up. You have, like you said, you learn how to operate differently versus just leaving a full-time job and like trying to figure it out in the midst of that. So I definitely, I agree with that. Some of that preparation that we don't understand why it's happening after the fact, like just like you said, like, oh no, I know why I went through that. I remember a sermon that I listened to, it was like back in 2017 from Elevation Church. And it was saying, he did 3 different ones. I'm trying to remember the one I want to. He said, I'm glad it happened, right? There's lots of times where we be like, oh God, just get us out of this. Let me get through this phase. But then you look back, like it had to, I'm glad it happened, and it had to happen. That's what it was called. It had to happen. All of those things had to happen in order for me to be here, because now I'm sure that now you can sustain anything.
I'm good.
Yeah. And so when you get to that place where you like, I'm not worried anymore, like we're straight, like this is in where everybody else was all over the place. And, I've been hearing people already saying like, it's another shutdown about to come, this, that, and the third. Like, okay, well, that's not my business. That's what I keep saying, like I'm gonna do what I need to do. I'm good. We're straight. Like you said, the same thing, like we've been through whatever we need to do to prepare us for that season. You take those lessons and you keep moving with them, right?
You sure do. I mean, I think of it differently in respect to when people say, why is this happening? Sometimes you just want, you say that, but you understand that you come out better, so much better and wiser on the other side from having those experiences. And when I mentor young entrepreneurs, I often say, because they, social media,
yes,
is like everything to these people, and sometimes they don't get favorable feedback. And I said, you need the unfavorable feedback so that you can sharpen your tools and your skills to be better. It's not always looked at as bad. It can be looked at as like growth, how you elevate.
Exactly. And I think even to saying that is that when everybody needs feedback. Restaurants need feedback, right? Schools get feedback. Like everything that you do when you're servicing other people, you have to have feedback because you don't know everything. Everything you do is not correct. Everything you do is not right. And everybody's not going to like that. And that's okay. But to your point, how you receive that feedback, you take it as just that, versus somebody's thought, and now you gotta change it up, right? We talk about, I've shared often that I started out asking people like, well, what you think about this? And then immediately somebody said, now in my mind, myself, that was like, well, maybe they right. Versus now I say, can I get your feedback? Thoughts, okay, you give me feedback, but if I decide I'm going with the red instead of the white, that's my business. But I had to learn that, right? Like, it's like, oh, okay, well, thanks for your feedback. I don't agree. And I'm just,
and that's a lesson. That was growth for me, to not sit in a corner and just cry about whatever feedback or criticism that I was getting. I had to really say, okay, just take it as growth. Do what you will with the feedback.
Yeah.
But learn from what somebody is saying, because if you can take the praise, you gotta take the criticism.
Yeah.
So they work together.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. So what have you learned about yourself during this journey that you didn't know before?
That I'm far more resilient than I thought I was. I really didn't see myself as, if somebody said that about me, girl, you're a resilient person. You're powerful. You stand in your truth. I would have been like, who are you talking about?
Not me.
But I really, really am. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to have all of those characteristics. You have to be able to walk in it every day, no matter what. It's a thick skin to this.
Yeah, I have learned that this is not, it's not, I'm not gonna say it's hard, but it's also not easy, right? It ain't for the faint of heart. It is not, because you come up with so many different challenges every single day that you are responsible for one way or the other, right? And it, like you said earlier, it could go well, it cannot, it could be received well, it cannot be received well, and then you're kind of in that space of like altering things, changing, whatever have you. But it's draining, it is, but it's also so rewarding. The moment that it's all worth it once you get that 1%, or you see, for me, it's like having the one person who I talk to, a client or something, and I can see their transformation. I can see them moving forward. And I'd be like, all those things, all the times that I was stressing out, trying to figure out, did I send the right form? Did these the right questions to ask? All of that stuff, that it's like, no, it's working. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I have to remind myself that it's not even about me to begin with, right? Like, this is a God thing for me. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, I'm just here. If I'm truly being the vessel, I'm actually putting more pressure on myself by saying to myself, like, oh, you should be seeing some type of outcome. That ain't even my job. Like, I have to learn, I need to mind my business, because whatever work he's supposed to do, I might not see anyway. I'm just supposed to plant the seed and he'll water it, or somebody else will water it. That's not my business. So, and talking about that, like, stepping out on faith and following your dreams, what does that mean to you?
See, and if I tell this, I'm gonna be very transparent.
Come on, let's go.
This is crazy, because I started this business. My husband wasn't even working. We were newly married. I started this business. I was working, him unemployed, me trying to do a business. People thought we were crazy. But
it's crazy until it happens.
They were like, are you serious? And it wasn't like I was doing the home, but I had a studio all these years.
So you were always brick and mortar?
Always brick and mortar.
Oh, wow.
So the thing was like, really? You really gonna do this? You really gonna get a storefront? And you, like, what are you thinking? And I don't know, the Lord take care of babies and fools. I promise you.
Every single day.
Because I didn't know what I was doing. I had no business. Like, I didn't go to school thinking I was going to actually be an entrepreneur. I had no business savvy. Everything I learned was self-taught.
Yeah.
So that's just stepping out on faith. You can't step more out on faith than that. And it actually worked. Being faithful, being consistent, being steadfast. I got a lot of people praying for me and want to see me succeed. That kind of story, you're not supposed to be in 20 years.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be the.
Well, it is, because he wrote it, right? Like,
oh, I know, but the naysayers and the typical people who would tell that, who would actually write that and Spielberg it, it's not supposed to be like the good ending.
Yeah.
But it really has. It has really, and I believe it's because of all the prayers. I believe it's because, if it was up to me, I don't know.
We would not be here. Okay.
We would not be here. But he's had his hand in it. So
yeah. And I think that that's so important that that we have a tendency, and I know, have fallen victim to this plenty of times. But even knowing that this is, a God thing, like you see stuff moving and you won't put your hand in there, like, Lord, you know what? You go work on them. Okay. I got you over here. Just don't even have to worry about over here. And so when you're in those moments, let's talk about like when you put your hand in it and you're trying to make the things work, when well, later on, you kind of figure out that's the reason why you shouldn't put your hands in it. But for those people who are listening and they're like, yeah, but I can make it go faster, because sometimes the reality is that when you're stepping out on faith, it is slower than you think, right? Because I know when I left, I just knew when I was leaving my job, everybody kept saying, well, what you gonna do? I was like, I don't know, but God told me I gotta go. So whatever he gonna give me, he gonna give me on the other side of this resignation. And he didn't give me nothing on the other side. So I'm over here like, well, what I'm supposed to tell my husband? Because Lord, me and you had this conversation. You supposed to tell me now what I'm supposed to do. Because he looking at me like, okay, well, now you're gone. Well, now what did he say? He didn't say nothing. So maybe I'm supposed to break. I don't know. So how do we get through those moments where, how do we get through those moments?
That is hilarious, because when I talk to young entrepreneurs and they say like they are, and I love it because they're passionate and they're like, yes, I'm gonna get all the business and I'm like, okay. It takes time. I know you exist, but everybody else don't know you exist.
Right.
That takes time. I promise you, I would, in the first like 3 years, I would pick up the phone and say, does this thing work? I know I paid the bill. Why is somebody calling me?
Do people see me? Are people walking outside? Like,
do they not know? And in my mind, I wanted everything. I wanted all the business, and I would pray for all the business. And I'm like, and now in hindsight, I'm so thankful that I didn't get that business, because because I wouldn't have been ready for it.
Oh, let's talk about that. Yes.
I would not have been ready for the influx of all that he would have given in my mind. I want everything. I wouldn't have been prepared how to have a work schedule, the demand, my sourcing. I wouldn't have been ready. And in hindsight, it took me 7 years to realize that. But it was like, oh, thank you, Lord, that you did not give me everything I asked for when I was asking for it, because I would not have even been ready to handle what I was asking for.
Yeah. And I think that that's the difference between, we hear, preachers say often our timing and his timing, right? If it is his plan, it's going to come to pass, right? Like it's going to happen, but we want it to happen because what I have learned is that because we already told people, right? Like, so when people ask, like even now I'm in like my 3rd year. And so when people ask, oh, how is Slaying Self-Doubt going? And I'm just like, it's going, because what you expect to be able to tell them is like, it's flourishing. I get to retire my husband. We going on vacations, like all these things that I'm like, Lord, you say we was building an empire. Can I at least get the E? Like, what? Oh, where can we? But I am learning, like, this right here is the pruning season. This right here is the preparation that you talked about, going through the recession and then being able to handle the pandemic, right? This right here is the time where I have to build character, where I have to be able to, can I handle the influx, right? Because we think, like you said, we think that we're ready, but really what happens when you get old and people, do you have the time?
Do you have, my key word, bandwidth? Do
you
have the bandwidth to be able to provide the same amount of, the same quality of service that you would do for the 3 people that you have for the 35 that you have?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you can't, you ain't ready.
You ain't ready. And I think it's so different because people when we look at entrepreneurship, sometimes I've had conversations, people look at entrepreneurship as a whole, like anybody who's doing any type of business. But I'm like, service-based and product-based are 2 different things, right? And then even in products, it's still different because if you have something like, use like t-shirts or something like that, if somebody is outsourcing that work, they're not doing the work anyway. They may be doing the front end part and whatever you see. But if someone's in, the people who are in there pressing shirts every single, and they got 2 people, they just pressing shirts in their space, you're not going to get it in a 2 to 3 day delivery. You're going to get it in 10 to 14 days because you have one person working on all of these orders, right? And the same thing, and on top of that, what kind of quality do you want? You want a rush job, or do you want to be able to say you had a great experience? And I think sometimes we have to, as entrepreneurs, have to know, like, what kind of service do you want to provide? In coaching, I'm like, oh, Lord, I want to have, 20 clients a week. And I had like my first 4 in one day. And I was like, nah, Jesus, I'm good. Like 4 is enough, because I didn't recognize the amount of energy it took from me. And I was like, I don't have the capacity. Like I was drained, and I was like, yeah, that's not going on. So then I had to change my thought process of saying, okay, I can do. And then I'm like, well, I definitely can't do clients and podcasts on the same day because it's a different energy. When I'm on a podcast, I'm upbeat. I'm this, when I'm coaching, it's a little, I'm the same, but it's a little bit more mellow, right? I'm, not as upbeat, but I'm just like, but I'm also getting people's stuff, and I know how I've received that. But like you said, in this time is when you're learning about yourself, and this time you're learning what you can handle and what you can't handle. Because if them 35 people was at your door and you wasn't ready, what you gonna say?
What am I gonna say? What can I it's nothing I can really do for you. Half of them would get
some service.
Good service.
Right. So then imagine you rushing to be able to do this and then having to turn people away and say, I can't. And I don't see that serving anybody. Right. And, so I think that's also, and then also just the understanding that when we're doing this, everybody isn't your client, right? We want all the people, but we want the right people. I want the people, Lord, that's going to pay me full price. I want the people, Lord, that's going to do the work. I want the people that's going to be appreciative of what it is that I'm doing. And sometimes those people aren't here yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And that takes time to figure out. A rule, I have like rules now that I have for my clients, but they were established because of all the history. And as you're coming to realize, okay, I can't do 4. I only take 3 clients on Saturdays. And people are like, why would you only take 3 clients? Do you know how much money you're missing out? But it's draining.
Yeah.
My creativity taps out after 3.
Yeah. And I always think of it as like, you imagine, remember, now I don't, but and I have it in over 18 years, actually, being in like a hairstylist, right? And going to the hairdresser. And I remember being a kid and having to be there at like 6 a.m, but my hairdresser wasn't ready to 2 in the afternoon. And overbooked and people sitting there with their stuff on, and we got so used to, and I'm just like, I don't understand that. So the minute when I had locks before, and so when I finally went to somebody who honored my time and was like, your appointment's at 10 and you're gonna be out by 12, I was like, now wait a minute, I can't go back to nothing else. But she, again, to your point, like, she knew what she could do. Overbooking yourself does not serve anybody. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the client. They may walk out with a good, they may walk out with a nice product, but are they going to come back? Not me. I'm not.
No, no. I remember that, sitting in the hair salon for hours, like all day. It was like a project. No.
Why? And as an adult now, I'm trying to figure out why. Why did we?
Because we want to be cute.
Right. For me to get crimps or for my mother to get a flat iron. Like, I'm just like, this is like the easiest thing ever. Like, she just flat ironed your hair. There's no curls. There's no setting. It's just a flat iron. Like, why are we here 8 hours? Okay, sure. I couldn't do it. When I made my own choice, I was like, nope, we not. I'm just going to be natural. I'm not going to do that.
But you want to give what's best for the client and for yourself, because if they don't get a good you are your business. You represent your business. And I tell you, you get more people who will say negative things about their experience than the positive ones.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely right. And so as you were talking about your bandwidth and we're talking about capacity, like, what are some daily practices or rules that you abide by after 20 years of being in business to maintain that? Like, because seasons come and go, there's shifts in our personal lives, which will also cause shifts in our businesses or whatever. Like, what are some, like, 3 things that you kind of stick by to make sure that you are managing your bandwidth?
If you've been listening to this podcast or following me on social media for a while and you're ready to start your journey to healing, or you're ready to confront your doubts and insecurities, there are 3 ways I can help. First, you can download the journal prompt from my website. Use this as a guide to get back on track with where God is calling you. Secondly, you can go to my website and purchase the Slaying Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Using this prompt and journal will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. These questions will force you to dig deep and find your fears. Lastly, if you're ready to invest in your healing journey and work directly with me, book a 30-minute connection call with me today. This allows us to see if we are a good fit for each other. So head on over to my website, www.feliciawallace.com, to do one or all 3 of these. That's www.feliciawallace.com. Now, back to the show.
I try to have a great work-home balance. That's rule number 1. Because I will bring work home, even though I try to make sure work is work, home is home.
Yeah.
I try to take 2 weeks out of the year, just no work, just to get rejuvenated. That's so helpful. And I really try to just take some quality time in the mornings for myself.
Yeah.
No phone, just a walk. Could be 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just my time. That is just me. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Those things have they've gone a long way in me being able to sustain myself.
Yeah. And I think that when you say that, like, everything that I heard was about you, right? A lot of times we try to put parameters around other things and other people, but really it's about us, right? And then, like you said, you are your brand, you are your business. And so the boundaries or the fences need to be around us. Like, what does that look like? And I think you're right. I totally agree with taking time for yourself, right? And I don't think that it's different. I think, like, when I was at work, and I don't think I thought about it, right? Because you want somebody else. We didn't have time either, right? Like, you want somebody else's time. You got to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. You have to show up and then you just kind of are going through the motions of the day. And now it's like, everything is intentional. Like, I don't want to be rushing. I don't want to, I want to make sure that I'm in the right mind space when I come. Let me eat before I work, right? Let me take care of myself. We're like being more intentional about the choices that we make so that we can show up as our best selves for our clients. And so I think that is I agree. It's very, very important.
And doing the 9 to 5 too. Once I got off, I was off. Like I would check out, but I do know that I don't check out. I still may be thinking about something, or I get an idea and I got to write it down, but I'm not as checked out as I was with the 9 to 5.
Oh,
I don't know if you had that.
No, I worked from home. I would leave work. Maybe I would have dinner, and then I'd open my computer back up and I would work more into the evening. Yep. Like and that was the reason why I knew that I was like, for other people who's like, oh, you when I thought about like, maybe Lord, I can do both. I had to realize that job required so much of me. I couldn't. I literally couldn't. It just took up too much. And some of that was on me, right? It had enabled my staff and the physicians that I work for to just depend on me. And so would just, I mean, if they was texting me at 11, Felicia, I can't close this, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, I don't like, why are you asking? Why are you asking me? I don't, there's certain things that were my responsibility as the leader. And if they waited to the last minute to do their stuff, then because now you want your money. So now I got to drop all your bills at 11:59 p.m. so you can get paid next. Now, but ma'am. Sir, I'm gonna need you. Come on, please. It was so that was like consuming, like literally, and then having direct reports was you was everything. You was their leader, their therapist, their sister, their mama. So there would be times like, hey, can you have a moment to talk? I know tomorrow. Oh, okay. So there was no way I could do both. Like there's literally no way. That
sets you up for right here. That sets you up for wow.
And that's why I say we don't know why we go through certain things, right? We don't know what God is preparing us for. But when I knew that there was, I knew that there was more coming, and I knew that there was a call on my life. I just didn't know what it was. I showed up in my job differently. I showed up in my job as a coach. I showed up, and I didn't know that that's what Slant Self-Doubt didn't exist. But God knew, right? And so when you, like you said, when you think back, and I'm like, when people ask how long I've been doing this, I'm like, I mean, unofficially, I've probably been doing this 15 years. Right? Like, because he was already calling me to this. He just said, now it's time for you to go and do it in your own strength. And so some of that is like having to remind myself, you've already been doing this. This isn't anything new. Like it just looks different. Right. But yeah, so let's talk about all things fingers and ink. What do you have? What can now you, because we know you a brick and mortar, right? And we can come down there. So what can we get from you, girl?
Custom invitations. I specialize in wedding invitations, but I do social invitations as well. Nice. Those milestone birthdays, the sweet 16s, 50th, 40th, the baby showers, graduations are really big right now.
Yes.
So yeah, we specialize in custom invitations.
Nice. And so walk us through the process. Do you, once they know they're coming in, so we're about to hit graduation season, if we're in the just before, because
a lot of those graduations are Mother's Day.
Yeah, so right. So we right. That's what I said. We right here. So
yeah.
With it being graduation season between May and June, what would somebody expect if they came to your brick and mortar, to the Fingers and Ink down in Arlington, VA? Okay. So y'all got to be local to the area just so y'all can see it in person.
But I actually take orders that are domestic, international. So
okay, that's international. So you can log on. Okay, we put all that information in the show notes. But what can they expect? Like for me, I'm a person that like, I don't know what I want. I just know I need a invitation.
Okay, whatever occasion it may be, I would definitely talk to you. I'd like to have at least a voice or virtual consultation just to get a feel of you, what you like, what your goals are. Sometimes you learn so much from people just by where they shop, what music they like, where they eat, to see like, okay, this person's colors, they like patterns, do they, are they risk takers? Are they more conservative? And then I'm able to put together a package or a presentation of inspirations for them to see as far as designs for invitation suites. And we don't just do the invitations, we do day of stationery as well. Personal stationery. This is April is National Letter Writing Month. So I always do a challenge every April of 30, because it's 30 days in April, 30 days, 30 letters. I am up to 20. I'm up to 20 letters already.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Just to get people writing. I mean, people don't write anymore. The art of writing is depleting, but I always try to campaign and cheerlead for that, because young people don't know how to address envelopes and don't know how much a stamp is.
Listen, let's not even get into that. My son was he's old enough to get a bank account, and so she was like, she tells him like, I need you to sign here, and so he went to print, and I'm like, no, a signature. And so he like, what? And so I'm like, so I should do my signature. I'm like, cursive, like. And he was like, I learned that in like the second grade. And I'm like, they don't teach cursive. No. Then I said, no, because you know what? Even before this, they were on computers, but definitely since the pandemic, they do everything in Google Classroom. So everything is on a laptop. So they're not writing anything out there. Type. I'm like, my youngest son, they both do the same thing. They do all their math on a little notepad thingy inside, so they're not actually right. So I've had to like, okay, we're gonna have to practice y'all signature, because y'all gonna have to learn how to sign, because you got to sign documents, right? So no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I have to.
No, but I really, my nieces and nephews, they all have personalized stationery. They always are writing, because I'm like, they might text me, thank you, auntie, for that. I'm like, I send my address. Send me a card.
Yeah, so you can send it back to me. Thank you very much. I love that though, because I think what it does is, like you said, like the art of writing. I even notice sometimes I'll be like trying to write like, what's today? Like, how do I make an R? How do I make, you know what I'm saying? Because you just, if you're not, we're used to texting in shorthand, right? Using abbreviations or acronyms, right? And we just,
and a complete thought, a complete sentence never
is 4 letters.
We're losing it. So that's the reason why I challenge people for 20 days. It could be a card, write a note, something to make somebody's day. Because imagine you get something out of the blue from somebody that you didn't even expect, other than a bill. You'd be excited. Like, wow, they thought about me today.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think it's interesting when I see like certain like letters come or stuff, or like even cards, or people mail cards. And I'm just like, we've gotten so accustomed to just like you said, a text to say happy birthday. But when you get a card in the mail, you're like, oh, okay, somebody actually went to the store, purchased a card, bought a stamp, sent it to me. Like the thought goes into it. It makes you feel all warm inside.
I know. I truly know. And even with invitations, when people receive a really good invitation, they're so excited. Like, wow, they really, and it's an investment to get something like that and have it go to all your guests, and they should feel special. Like, I want to come and celebrate with you.
Yeah. No, that's so awesome. So do you do like greeting cards, or you do stationery?
No, just the invitation. Stationery, I do personal stationery.
Stationery. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, and you said day of, so I could come in today and be like, hey, I need.
No, day of stationery is like when you go to a wedding or an event and they have escort cards or place cards or cocktail napkins or things like that. I do those things.
Okay. Oh, that's so nice. Full service. So this is also graduation and wedding season. So you have to be busy.
I am busy. It really is. But busy and profitable. Yeah. Those two have to go together.
They have to go together.
Can't be busy and not profitable. So
yes. Well, praise the Lord. We are going into this next season, and people are stepping out and having events and doing all of those things now, so thank you so much for joining us today. So how can people connect with you? How can they find you if they're ready to get their invitations? I know a couple of people just get married, so I'm gonna go ahead and send them your stuff, girl.
Fingers in Ink. We're on all social media platforms. It's Fingers in Ink. F as in Frank. INGERS ININK at Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook.
TikTok.
Yes,
listen, I'm trying to still get the hang of.
I love TikTok. It's going down a rabbit hole, but
listen, let me tell you something. Them clean talks, I done bought more stuff. I did not understand when people like TikTok made me do it. My husband like, what is this? But I was watching a TikTok video and they said if you put these two things together, I could clean this corner. Like he'd be like, what? But it works. Whatever they say do, it all works.
TikTok is, oh man, I can sit there and that's on some like next level. I am totally going to just wipe my head of any thought and sit there and just.
I'm with you. Look, I be recipes, all that stuff. I just be like, try that. Yeah, that look good. Oh man, did they make a salmon cheesesteak? Okay, then.
Did that just happen?
Yes. But I love it. I love watching people's but like you said, it's mindless, right? Like you just watching people's creativity. You ain't got to think of nothing. But I'm like, we got dinner for the next couple of months. And a clean house. How about that?
Oh, this is so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I reached out because you are doing such phenomenal work. I had to reach out and say, look, I would love to talk to you. I know I have it. And I think everybody has a story, honestly. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they've been in business 20 years, 10 years. Everybody has a story. So I just wanted to definitely meet you and share my story with some people.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it because like I said, we never know who we're meant to inspire, who we're meant to impact or encourage. So when God said, you're going to put some women on, I was just like, well, Lord, who's going to come on here and talk to me? And every week people keep showing up. So I just be like, well, I guess, like, again, if you want to do this, that's fine. So I'm grateful. I'm thankful that you wanted to share your story. And I know whenever people hear this, they will be impacted by it to know, like you said, sometimes you just got to step out on faith, follow your dreams, do what you need to do, and stop. My takeaway from today is stop acting like a business and be a business. Okay. Because there's a difference.
It's total difference. It's totally different.
There is a difference.
You can play all day.
Yes. Thank you so much, y'all. The information will be in the show notes. So y'all can find her all over social media, and you can find her on the TikTok. You maybe find her. She may be liking some of y'all stuff, y'all. You'll never know. The both of us might be out here the way we be on here. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.